Further debate. Member from Mississauga-Streetsville.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it's a pleasure to speak on this particular motion. And Speaker, I'd like to focus on what I think is the salient part of this, which is that the NDP love to spend other people's money. Now, Speaker, this is an interesting proposal, but it's wrong-headed. And what it essentially does is it gives corporations a blank check drawn on the Ontario taxpayer. So let's deal with the three aspects of this particular proposal. Providing a universally accessible pension plan. Now, Speaker, this Ontario legislature doesn't have the jurisdiction or the power, or I put it, the need to change or to reform the Canada Pension Plan, which already exists, to do exactly what the NDP motion advocates in providing a universally accessible pension plan. Now, Speaker, does the NDP suggest that a Canadian, now just taking their proposal, a Canadian who may have been raised on the East Coast or somewhere out in the Western provinces, and someone who retires in Ontario, do they suggest that they should not collect a pension as they propose? Now, if that's not their intent, and I suspect it isn't, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I suspect that's not their intent, then perhaps they should just go through the motions, as it were, and ask their federal cousins to deal with the first part of this motion, which is to provide a universally accessible pension plan. Now, Speaker, the NDP motion would ask Ontarians to sign a blank check on the Pension Benefit Guarantee Fund. What is the Pension Benefit Guarantee Fund? The Pension Benefit Guarantee Fund, for those of you who are watching at home and saying, never heard of it, is a fund into which pension plans pay so that in the event one of them fails, that the Pension Benefit Guarantee Fund would be able to make up the difference, very much as the travel fund, if you're stranded somewhere, would reimburse you for travel. It's a loose analogy, but that's generally what it's intended to do. So what the NDP motion proposes is that this Pension Benefit Guarantee Fund be completely guaranteed by you, by all of the taxpayers who don't have a pension, to guarantee the pensions of the taxpayers who do have a pension. That probably hasn't been sitting very well with people where I come from, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't been sitting very well all across Ontario. So how much money is this? And this is a lot of money, let's be very clear. This is not just a few $1 million or even a few $1 billion, but is very likely in the order of tens of billions of dollars, and again from Ontarians of whom 2/3 don't have a pension, to give to the perhaps 1/3 of Ontarians who do have a pension. Now, the thing that bothers me about this is that it would forever absolve any and every company that wants to take its retired workers' pensions and fly the coop. They can take the pension money and run. You can chase them. You can talk about what you can do in terms of either civil action or criminal action. But at the end of the day, if this motion is adopted, it's the Ontario taxpayer who's left holding the bag. That's not the intent with the Pension Benefits Guarantee Fund. This fund hasn't been managed very well in more than a generation. And as my colleague from the other side put it, this goes through governments of all political stripes. So the first thing to do is to collect some proper data to set assessments that reflect the true cost, and this hasn't been done, the true cost of the pension guarantee. And secondly, what we need here is not a motion like this, but perhaps legislation that clarifies that original intent of the fund, which is that it was supposed to be financed through premiums and not by a future draw on taxpayers, through premiums. That part is important. Now, Speaker, I think it's incumbent on us to have a closer look at, particularly as pensions are intended to benefit seniors, what exactly has been done for seniors in the last few years. Now Speaker, the enhanced permanent sales tax credit, which benefits low to middle income people, is going to provide up to $260 per person. $260 per person that's not available now. and it would be refundable, and it's paid quarterly, not just once a year when you claim it on your tax, but quarterly, so that it's actually a stream of income beginning in July 2010. Property tax relief, in which the government of which I have the privilege to be a part, has been a leader across Canada. We're going to be providing a new refundable Ontario property tax credit. Again, the major beneficiaries are not the super rich with the big mansions who don't need it, but it's low to middle income Ontarians, the very type of people who bought their homes in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and lived in them and raised their families and built their communities and are now retiring in those homes. And what's the best place to keep people when they've retired? In their own homes as long as they possibly can, and that's what this measure does. Speaker, for all the best intents of my colleagues and friends in the NDP, what they proposed here would in the end be completely counter to what they intend, and that, Speaker, is why I'll vote against this motion.